Hi, welcome to On the Wild Side. I'm your host, Kyle Shepard. Today we'll meet one of our largest residents, a rhinoceros, and one of our tiniest residents right now, a Komodo dragon. We'll also talk about ways to stay cool while you're visiting the zoo in the summer with some fun summer treats. Join us on the Wild Side. Your zoo just welcomed a new male southern white rhinoceros who is 3 years old. His name is Letterman, and you're right, he is named after David Letterman, the late night TV comic, and Jack Hanna named him. So we're here today with Steve Taylor, the Assistant Director of Conservation, Education, and Collections.
That's right.
To talk about rhinos and why they're important. So Steve, talk a little bit about Letterman and where they're from. And
Sure, we're very excited to have Letterman down here at the zoo now. He was born up at a facility called The Wilds up in Ohio. He's 3 years old, still growing, still a youngster. He's got a lot of growing yet to do. But we're happy to have him. Very personable, is really doing well as we've settled in. He's come through his quarantine. Now he's out getting used to the exhibit, and we're getting ready in the next short period of time to introduce him to Cindy, our female. And hopefully that'll go pretty well.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. So just like Steve said, he will soon be joining Cindy in the exhibit. But that's a pretty detailed process. Can you tell us about how detailed it is and how sometimes it takes a little while, right?
Sure, it does. Rhinos, it's well known that when unknown rhinos come together, they'll spar quite a bit. So one of the things that we're doing is taking a long introductory period, letting them get used to each other, smelling through some of the doors inside. They're able to kind of touch each other a little bit, and we're just taking our time. It's warm outside and there's no reason to rush. They're both doing well, and hopefully that when we actually open the door and they go together, things will go pretty well. But we do expect them to spar a little bit. And that's pretty typical rhino behavior. So nothing wrong with that. Actually, it's kind of good for both of them to go through the process.
So it's a kind of a who's in charge type thing?
To some degree. Cindy, who's 33 years old, is certainly, I think she's going to rule the roost. And that's one of the reasons that he's here, is to kind of learn his place in the pecking order, so to speak, with an older female. So that's the opportunity that we have to bring him here and to put him with Cindy. But the bigger picture, one of the things that we're really excited about is rhino conservation. And the reason that we have rhinos here, you know, the white rhino was the first animal that we actually had at the zoo when it opened in 1969. So we've got a long history there. There's only about 20,000 white rhinos left on the planet. Rhinos as a whole are very endangered animals. They're hunted or poached for their horns. And so the opportunity for us to be able to show our guests here what a white rhino looks like, how they act, how big they are, is important to excite people to want to help save rhinos around the planet.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what's been in the news lately, that we recently lost the world's last northern white rhino. Is that correct?
Correct, Sudan. The last male northern white rhino. So the white rhinoceros is split into two subspecies. The southern, which is about 20,000, and then there was one male and two female northern white rhinos. The northern subspecies were left, and the male finally passed away. But we haven't given up total hope yet, because we do have some of his DNA in the cryo zoo out at San Diego, and we're hoping that at some point in time we might yet still be able to use that to help keep a northern white rhino on the planet alive.
So usually we learn from the animals, but you mentioned that he's going to have a little bit of a learning process as well.
Well, he is. Again, like I said, he's here to learn quote unquote manners, being around an older female. Ultimately, he'll move on to a breeding group someplace else in the States. But that's his job right now, and we're helping him accomplish that, to learn how to be a very vibrant male that will help in the conservation of his species down the road. But did you know, as big as he is now, he's going to grow quite a bit larger. He probably weighs somewhere around 3,500 pounds, maybe 4,000 pounds. He'll weigh 6,000 pounds and will stand about this tall when he's full grown.
Taller than me?
Taller than me. So we're excited about that, to have a
Absolutely.
nice young male here who is a good ambassador for the species, and we're anxious for guests to be able to come out and enjoy.
Absolutely. So we always end our segments with talking to the keepers or whomever about what keeps them at the zoo and how long they've been here. You've been here for 20, 30 something years, right?
Well, I've got a little bit of a history. Yeah, I actually started at the zoo in 1975.
Okay, a little longer.
So
than
I've been here for a while. I went away and then I came back, and but I love to get up in the morning because I learn something every day. Being around some of the most rare animals on the planet, what a privilege to be able to come and interact and to be able to do the conservation work that we do here. So that's exciting. It's a great place to be.
It is a great place to be. It is a living classroom, and just like Steve said, there is something always new to learn at the zoo.
Zoo construction is complex. Contractors who build storefronts, warehouses, it's hard for them to process sometimes. I'm Charles Edwards. I'm a construction manager at the Louisville Zoo. I've been here for 22 years. I was brought in to essentially reboot the master plan to essentially rebuild the zoo. My first project was the Islands project, and later on did the African Outpost, then Gorilla Forest, and then the most significant last project was Glacier Run. Currently now we're doing the colobus monkey exhibit, or colobus crossing as we call it, and then the snow leopard exhibit down the hill. We have a lot of activity going on. I've been very fortunate that we've had a continuous construction program for 22 years, which is unusual. Well, we spend a lot of time trying to get things right. We're very fortunate that John Walczak, the director, has an incredible eye for exhibit detail. He's got a really good vision of what a good exhibit should be. That's why we've won several national awards for our exhibits. Well, when we're designing a project, we do talk a lot to the entire zoo team. Obviously, we start at the top with our assistant director in charge of animal collections, who uses his years of knowledge, and John Walczak's exhibit experience. We then bring in the keepers and really the whole staff that includes guest services and maintenance, and anyone involved that will be involved with all these buildings and get their input, particularly the keepers, anything involving the animals, animal holding, the outdoor areas, how they'll do the animal training and enrichment. It's really critical to get their input because all of them have years of experience, and let them tell you what's going to make a good environment for them to do their jobs in the most effective way. This is the education building. It's a pre-K facility. for children, as I understand it, 3 to 5. This is the main entrance. This is where the cool stuff starts. We have a theming element. We'll transform this building into an old, deteriorating building you might find in Nepal. And that's one of the very fun things about doing zoo work. You get to transform them. But first, it's got to be a really sharp new building with all the modern conveniences of heating and air conditioning and filtered water, and of course all the safety elements. Good entry vestibule. We'll have 2 restrooms, but since these are very small children, we'll have Dutch doors where the top can be open when they're in there. So if there are problems, the teachers can help them out. This is what we call a lactation room for nursing mothers. We try to accommodate our public. This is the main classroom area. This is going to be pretty heavily themed, using a lot of wood in here. We're getting ready to put in decorative wood ceiling panels that employs aged barn wood and tobacco stakes and some interesting patterns to, again, emulate, say, a temple building in Nepal, in the Himalayas. And then you have a wonderful view of the exhibit yard. One of the very neat features, though, that the staff had requested is we have these 2 windows over here, and right here where I'm standing, we're going to build a fiberglass cave with a sliding board on top of it. So therefore children can go underneath and have an eye-to-eye view of a snow leopard, because there's going to be another cave on the outside with cool air blowing underneath of it, so the cat will go in there to cool off. And then on top, they can stand on top before they go down the slide, and again look out into the snow leopard habitat. So it should be a really cool experience for the children. We're doing some interesting things to help engage the snow leopards more. We called it, when we were in the design process, putting in a whack-a-mole game. But we have these treat dispensers that'll make a sound and attract the snow leopard, and the keepers will work on targeting with the animals, and hopefully they'll leap up to get them, because that's the whole idea of leopard leap. So we'll see how that happens, but that's one of the very unique things about this exhibit. It's never been done anywhere, so we hope it works. Yeah, in 22 years it's been very rewarding to have worked on all these projects. I've learned so much. I get bored easily, so learning new things all the time really keeps me energized. And the challenges sometimes of making things work or getting these details to mesh together is a gratifying experience. And I feel very blessed to have worked here.
I like the gorillas because they're really active, and they always move around, and they're eating leaves, and they're funny.
Giraffes, they reach for leaves, eat them with their lips.
I've seen the baby show her teeth and try to jump scare us, because she's actually scary when she jumps.
I like the rhino. He gets so dirty.
I think it's fun, even though you see the same animals, you see different things that they're doing. Ooh, 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 ooh.
We come here about once a month.
The one on the left.
She's so beautiful. I've been keeping up with her.
A baby's in there.
Life is good. We're just excited everybody's here today to be able to watch.
We started doing this ultrasound a few weeks ago. Those doors or gates kind of open up.
So what's going to happen is Mickey's going to turn her side.
She'll be facing this way because I'm going to be imaging her left flank. Steve, can you get her a little bit closer and more forward? Get this whole area nice and wet, get some of the dirt off her. That's pretty good. So I'll just have a little transducer or probe that will be on her skin there, and we'll be flooding water over the transducer because the water kind of fills in all the cracks and crevices in their skin to give you a good contact. Uterine wall and some of those placental membranes, and there's baby. At this point, 11 months in, the fetus is probably about the size of a medium-sized watermelon. Today we did see a little moving fetus within an amniotic sac and good fetal movement, and we'll keep tracking that as we progress. There is fewer than 200 African elephants in zoological parks in North America, so every pregnancy, every birth is really important, really precious for the captive population.
Pretty girl. I'm very passionate about the conservation of animals because they make up this world just like we do. And it's important that other kids get the wonder of seeing a newborn calf. It's the renewing of hope every time a new little one is born.
Hi, we're here at the Herp Aquarium, and we just met one of our larger residents. Now we're going to meet, right now, one of our smallest residents. We're here at the Herp Aquarium with Bill McMahon, the curator of Ectotherms. What is an ectotherm?
An ectotherm is an animal that derives its body temperature from external sources. So you and I are endotherms because we're always at 98.6, but animals like Komodo dragons, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and vertebrates, they derive their body temperature from the sun and wherever they are. So they don't have to generate it. And there are advantages and disadvantages to that. They can go long periods of time without food. I mean, a big Komodo dragon could go a year without a meal if need be. Humans, obviously, and other mammals, they can't do that. So there are pros and cons to each system, whether you're endothermic or ectothermic.
Well, you mentioned Komodos, and that's actually why we're here. Our newest resident is a 7-month-old Komodo dragon. So he's tiny at this point, right?
He is. It takes about a decade for them to reach full maturity, and for males that's usually 8, sometimes 9 feet long. The world record is a little over 10 feet. Here they get constant food, so animals grow faster in an environment like that where food is readily available, whereas in the wild, in nature, it can take a long time to get a meal, and so they don't grow as quickly typically as they do here.
So they're considered the largest lizard in the world. What do they eat to become that large?
Well, they're carnivorous. I mean, as youngsters, they eat insects and they may eat small fish or little lizards, things like that. And as they get larger, they eat larger and larger animals, rats, snakes, birds, things like that. And when they're fully grown, 8, 9 feet long, males anyway, they can feed on small deer, pigs, things like that. Water buffalo. The water buffalo there are smaller than the ones like in Africa, but I mean they can still eat those things. But they can't directly just go and kill one. They generally sort of, one will bite it, and then another one will bite it, and they'll sort of hang around. And so it may take 3 days or more for that to die, and then they have a big feast.
They're known for speed, is that right?
I don't know that I'd say speed. I mean, a good one on open ground might hit 12, 13 miles an hour. So, I mean, that's faster than people walk, but I think if you can run, you could get away from one.
That's true. So is there anything unique about Komodos that I'm not asking? First of all, his name is Romulus. That's kind of neat. So what's the story behind his name?
Well, it's just, I had the notion of maybe trying to get 2 males and rear them here together and name them Romulus and Remus. And so anyway, we ended up with this guy, and so that's where Romulus comes from.
So one other tip, here's a pro tip for you. He's kind of tough to find in this exhibit currently. So give some viewers some tips about where to find him when they come out.
He is. He's usually up in a higher spot, not always, but small Komodos are afraid of being eaten by big Komodos. So they try to get up off the ground, and when they're up off the ground, they're safe. And so he still, even though there's no big Komodo in there, he feels a lot safer up there in the top than he does at the bottom. Komodos have a colorful past in that we've only known about them, at least in modern science, for about a century. And there were rumors of these animals, these creatures called Buaha Darat, which means the crocodile that walks on land, that sailors in the Malay archipelago used to hear about all the time. And then finally, about 1912, it was formally described for science, and it turned out to be a really big lizard, the biggest lizard in the world.
Well, we're sweating out here, but he probably enjoys this weather, right?
Oh yeah, they like heat. On Komodo, I think for 5-6 hours a day, the temperature averages between 95 and 105 degrees for the better part of a year. So they have a monsoon season that sort of goes along with our winter, but about 9 months of the year it's pretty dry and hot.
Well, we always like to wrap up our packages talking about what keeps our staff here at the zoo. You've been here pretty much a lifetime almost. What kept you here? What's your favorite part?
I don't know that I have a single favorite part. I just really feel privileged to be able to work with so many exotic animals, and I enjoy that a great deal. I really do.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
So now here's a word from our executive director, John Walczak.
We are so excited about our master plan. It was designed in 2016, and we're actually working on some of the projects today, but we've gotten compliments from our fellow colleagues in the zoological profession all over the world. Some of the incredible things that we're talking about doing, just to my left, to the east in the zoo, we want to recreate the savannah. We're going to take over the bus parking lots and put our education center right at the front of the zoo, next to the carousel, so when the children come in the morning, they're going to get to see the sun rise over the African savannah, the sunrise over the giraffes and the rhinos and the elephants and the zebra, and create that inspirational moment when they're coming out here for so much more than a field trip or a class. They're coming to really engage and relate to habitats that are 5,000 to 10,000 miles away. There's so many great parts to the master plan beyond the African savannah. Our education facility, right at the front door. Education is a cornerstone of how we accomplish the soul of our mission, conservation education. So it's so important for us to have education make that bold statement so everyone knows that they're here to have fun. And we know that's why people come to the zoo, and we love that. People need a great place to come and forget about their problems and make great memories with those that are close to them. But coming here and experiencing the education building and that moment of engagement is going to open up all these doors where that fun can turn into understanding and caring about these incredible, rare and precious creatures, and doing so in a fun way.
Thanks for joining me on the wild side. Don't forget to come out and visit Letterman and Romulus, and yeah, it's hot, but we've got your summer treats covered. Come on out and visit us.